Hi, Crimies. I'm your host, M.A.B, and you're listening to the Coffee and Crime podcast. So, this week I wanted to do something a little bit different than the other episodes I've recorded so far. I also want to give you a quick trigger warning. If you've ever been in an abusive relationship or a violent relationship of any kind, this is your trigger warning to not listen and not watch this episode. So I just want to start with a quick fact. I knew that intimate partner violence was prevalent and really becoming a bigger problem in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, a couple of provinces. It's just not something I saw as often before. And in September 2024, the Nova Scotia government passed Bill 482, declaring intimate partner violence an epidemic in Nova Scotia. I was surprised. I did not think it was that bad. Like, I knew it was bad. Sorry, not that bad. Wrong choice of word. I didn't think that it was that common, I guess. So without further ado, please listen to the following disclaimer.
The content delivered through this podcast will at times be graphic in nature and describe criminal conduct which includes but is not limited to violence, sexual assault, and homicide. All suspects described in the podcast are considered innocent until they are found guilty in a court of law. I'm not an expert on any subjects covered, I'm just an interested party. The content will be troubling and upsetting to some people, therefore, viewer or listener discretion is advised.
So again, I know that intimate partner violence is on the rise. I know it's a very difficult subject to talk about. I don't know why, but I think it's often regarded as taboo or just something you don't talk about because I think the victims are often perceived as weak. And it couldn't be further from the truth. First of all, for them to stay there for the mental abuse, the physical abuse, the beatings, nobody, in my opinion, is stronger than they are. We all know one of the most dangerous times in an abusive relationship is when the victim makes their escape or when they're planning their escape. So let's give these people some grace. And the reason I'm deciding to cover these stories or some of these stories is so that we can sort of normalize the conversation. And I feel like if we have more resources and if people feel more comfortable talking about it, then maybe we can change just one person's life. Let's get started. Welcome to episode 6, Patricia Tanner, Paiyton Pick, and Elaine Mosher. In the early morning hours of March 2nd, 2025, police are dispatched and arrive at a residence on Haven Drive in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia, where they find Andrew Dawson Tanner, 85 years old, in a room in the residence. He had some self-inflicted injuries. The call had been placed because of a report of a woman in medical distress. Upon entering the house, before finding Andrew in a separate room of the residence, they find Patricia Tanner, 83 years old. She was lifeless, and it was clear that she had been assaulted with a weapon, and unable to revive her, the paramedics declared her dead at the scene, not long after their arrival. While police did confirm she was assaulted with a weapon, they did not disclose what kind of weapon was used. Andrew Tanner got charged with first-degree murder, and he later appeared in court from his hospital room virtually, where he was being treated for his wounds and injuries, and he would remain there until an in-person court appearance at a later date. Court documents confirm the couple was married, and these documents also confirm that no prior incidents of violence had been reported for this couple. I'll try to keep an eye out once he goes to court for sentencing in May. I'll jump on the mic and provide an update once one becomes available. I think this one sort of bothers me in a different way because no prior incidents were reported. So typically or often in an abusive relationship that ends with one person losing their life, there's like a stepping stone of increasingly worrisome behavior that kind of leads to the big bang at the end, which would be one of the partners losing their life. Also, I want to point out that just because no prior incidents of abuse were reported, it definitely doesn't mean that none happened. It could, I mean, we never know. You never, ever know what goes on behind closed doors. So, in the meantime, before I come up with an update, if they release one, if you have any information to share regarding this case, you can contact the Bridgewater Police. Their phone number is 902-543-2464. And you can quote the file number 2025-275-254. And I'll make sure to link all that in the show notes in case you need to refer to it later. This brings us to our second case in this episode, and it's the one of Paiyton Darlene Jane Pick. Paiyton was born July 21st, 2002, and she was living in Annapolis Valley in Nova Scotia. Some of the things that she really enjoyed in life were dancing, singing, and relaxing near a bonfire. Who doesn't? No matter the season, her happy place was by the water, where she could often be found. Paiyton and Justin had been seeing each other for about a year at that point, and he had already been successful in isolating her from her friends and family. She had even attempted to take her own life that previous fall. So, I know a lot of people don't understand this. People are so quick to judge and say, just leave, just get out. If it were me, I would have left a long time ago. Let me tell you, you probably wouldn't have either. Some people do. Hindsight is 2020, and when you're in it and you're living it, you don't really understand the brainwashing that's going on because these people prey on their victims, literally. And when you're in a physically or mentally or emotionally abusive relationship, you're so brainwashed and conditioned to just sort of quietly become the way your partner wants you to be. January 11th, 2025, Paiyton was found lifeless in a home that was allegedly set on fire by her partner, Justin Joseph Benjamin. Justin was 28 years old at the time, and Paiyton was only 22 years old at the time of her death. Justin Benjamin was charged with second-degree murder and arson with disregard to human life. A celebration of life was held for Paiyton with pictures all over the walls of the community center where the celebration was held. And as part of a CBC News interview, her mom, Norma Jean Pick, said, quote, "I want her to be remembered as the carefree, kind, loving lady she was. She brought joy to everyone's life." End quote.
Inside this community center, Paiyton Pick is remembered, not for the tragic way she died, but for who she was.
I want her to be remembered as the carefree, kind, loving young lady she was. She brought joy to everybody's life.
Last month, Paiyton was murdered. Her body found in this home in Centerville that had been set on fire. Her boyfriend, Justin Benjamin, charged in her death.
This is something I will never get over. I'm so sorry.
Paiyton's death is the latest in a spike in intimate partner violence that has left 6 women dead since October. But her family doesn't want her memory to fade away as a statistic. They want her death to lead to change.
There needs to be something more, because it's sad that it's taken these 6 lives to come out, and like it really hurts knowing that like it was my niece.
Paiyton's aunt says she wants to see more education in schools on recognizing and preventing domestic violence, as well as increased mental health care in rural areas. She says Paiyton was isolated and controlled. She cried for help by trying to take her own life, but wasn't connected to any supports. This advocate says societal change and government action is needed.
We need to change as a culture and really stop accepting this and also feeling that it's other people's responsibility to do it.
So there's certainly more to do, but it is concerning, right, to see these events.
Comer says a new mental health care program will make support more accessible in rural areas. The Justice Minister says all departments are working on solutions.
We need to be ensuring that all students have education on how to build healthy relationships, how to reach out for help, how to identify challenging circumstances when they need help.
While it's too late to stop Paiyton's tragedy, her family has a message.
We just want people to open their eyes and pay attention and watch out for our loved ones.
Nicholas Sagan, CBC News, Wolfville.
I was also watching sort of a documentary on intimate partner abuse, and I found it interesting because they stated that in smaller communities or in more rural areas, I mean, obviously, because it's a smaller area, there aren't as many close resources available, but it doesn't mean that you can't get help if you're in this situation either. And I guess they also said that part of it is the stigma, because in small communities, people are so tight-knit and it's almost like they're scared to be thought of differently or to be judged by such a small community. That being said, this brings us to our third and final case for this episode, and it's the case of Elaine Mosher. Elaine loved gardening, food, and spending time with people she loved. She was well known for her bright red tomatoes that were out of this world, and she never missed the chance to share them with friends and family. Only the best food was served for her and her siblings at family gatherings, and this often included fresh lobster. Sign me up. Her family said she was a devoted daughter, sister, and aunt, and that she could often be found fishing and lobstering with her dad before he passed. I'm sure those were some of her most cherished memories. She enjoyed coffee outings with her sister as often as she could, and weekend drives with her mom. Her family describes her as effortlessly funny and loved by many in her community. Her presence in the community where she lived will be missed. Community residents remembered her as a well-loved bus driver, a dedicated caretaker at Rissers Beach Provincial Park, and through her work at the Provincial Department of Natural Resources. Unfortunately, police say that on January 5th, 2025, Elaine, 60 years old, was killed by her husband, who then turned the gun on himself and ended his own life. This made her the sixth woman to be killed by their male partners in Nova Scotia since September. I literally feel there needs to be something we can all do to try to help prevent this, and most of all, prevent someone else from becoming part of this terrible statistic. An article says that Suzanne Lones-Croft, who is the mayor of Mahone Bay, said that in an interview that residents in the quiet neighborhood where Elaine lived had been deeply saddened by her death. She also said in this interview that since her death, she has received a number of calls from residents of the town relating their own experience with intimate partner violence. So like I said before, just because it's not out there and nobody died at the hands of somebody else does not mean nothing's happening. So that being said, I know it's so secretive for whatever reason, but it's obviously more common than we think. Is it that people are scared or just scared to be judged by speaking up? It's not something people often volunteer to talk about, but I think we need to encourage these conversations and offer resources to help whenever we can. I also think that part of the problem is the cost of living. I mean, let's face it, housing, food, everything is ridiculously expensive. And it's so difficult to make it on your own these days. And even if, like, the cost of housing is one thing, But especially in smaller communities, like I think of even just Amherst, Nova Scotia, there's constantly a flow of people posting on a group community site asking if there are any places to rent. So even if you were to leave, unless you go to a transition house, and then if you have kids, things get even more complicated. But if you choose not to go to a transition house, or if you're scared to take that route, where do you go? Where do you go? Even if you could afford your own place, would there be one available for you to rent? I guess there's like so many sides to this situation. It really gets complicated. So sometimes we have misconceptions about what partner violence is exactly. So because of that, let me break it down for you. Partner violence can include any of the following: physical or sexualized violence, like hitting, slapping, kicking, pushing, strangulation, forcing sex without consent or without contraception. And I think this is a huge red flag because it's almost like people assume that because you're in a relationship or because you're married, that a forced sexual encounter is not a thing. Because apparently, when you said yes at the altar or when you agreed to start dating this partner, that gave them hands down all rights to do whatever they want with you. Incorrect. Let's say that again. Incorrect. Second thing, emotional abuse like humiliation, repeated name calling, shaming, extreme jealousy, etc. I know some people in that situation, and I would be surprised if you didn't. Threats of violence to a person, their children, pets of family members, or threatening to end their own life. So I've been in this situation too, where if you leave me, that's it for me. I'm just going to end my life. Well, I guess I'm staying, right? I mean, I'm here today without them, so I did something right. And last but not least, coercive control, like stalking, controlling a person's finances, movements, phone calls, texts, or choice of clothing. I know you know who you are. So please, 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 and I can't stress this enough, if you or someone you know is experiencing intimate partner violence, report it. There is help and there is support available. There's a 24-hour helpline that can be reached at 1-855-255-0220. And it provides advice and support for those who are experiencing or concerned about intimate partner violence. You can also dial 211, and that offers a variety of helplines, including mental health support and an array of other helplines for you. And obviously, if you ever feel in immediate danger, again, please do not hesitate to call 911. I will link all of the information I just discussed for this case and previous cases in the show notes. So if you need to refer to it, if you need to provide it to somebody you know who might need it, please, please, please do that. On that note, as always, my corny little line, crime is a waste of time. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, share, all of the things. It is literally the only way that I can grow my channel, grow my audience, and hopefully eventually provide you more true crime all the time. I'm not saying if you know somebody who's going through this to say, hey, you need to get out. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. But sometimes it might be as simple as 211 is a pretty easy number to remember. So it could be as simple as mentioning that to someone or letting them know that there's options if they want to call transition houses or whatever the case may be. The 1-855 number I provided earlier, maybe they can tuck that in their pocket, their undies. When they have a second, they can call. We really need to get together and make this situation better. And I feel like it's really something that all of us can take part in to try to actually make a difference. So please tune in next week for an all new episode. And until then, bye, Crimies.